The impending collapse of the Russian economy is already obvious, even to Russian propagandists, who are radically changing their rhetoric. They no longer want to go all the way to Kiev, but are demanding an immediate end to the war, warning that otherwise the Russian budget will face enormous problems. Thus, propagandist Dmitry Borisenko attributed the recent statement by Ivan Alexeyev, Minister of Finance of the Republic of Sakha, Yakutia, about suspending payments from the regional budget to veterans of the war against Ukraine to the general deterioration of the economic situation in Russia. A video of the propagandist's statement was published on social media. According to him, if the Kremlin does not stop the so-called SVO in the near future, the Russian budget will face major difficulties. The propagandist doesn't believe the regional authorities' claims that funds will be found to pay the occupiers. He is convinced that the longer the war continues, the greater the economic problems Russia will face. Specifically, the Russian authorities will be unable to fulfill their obligations to pensioners, low-income families, large families, and other groups. Therefore, the propagandist hopes for an end to the active phase of the war in the near future. This will at least provide some respite for the Russian budget, he notes. At the same time, the propagandist emphasizes that the cessation of hostilities could change public sentiment in the Russian Federation. When military action fades into the background, citizens begin to pay more attention to domestic issues, the causes of the conflict, and accumulated social problems. According to him, if the war ends, the Russian regime could face increased public demand for explanations and assessments of the results. People will start asking questions, and the authorities understand this, he said. Recall, Russia is once again experiencing problems with regional military payments. In Yakutia, funds for war veterans have run out. Ivan Alexeyev, head of the local branch of the Ministry of Finance, announced this. According to him, the reason was a simple lack of funds in the regional budget. It was empty. The official assures that the authorities have already found the money and will soon restore payments. However, the pause arose because the Republic cannot estimate in advance how many people will require compensation. Starting in the summer of 2025, volunteers from Yakutia who signed contracts with the Ministry of Defense will be entitled to a one-time payment of approximately 2.7 million rubles. More than half of this amount will come from the regional budget, which is already under strain due to the war unleashed by Moscow. The Republic also provides compensation for injuries, starting at 500,000 rubles. In the event of the death of a combat veteran, the family receives 1 million rubles. However, all these payments are currently in question. The authorities are trying to plug holes in the budget and explain the failure by saying they cannot determine the number of recipients in advance. Alexeyev promises that payments will resume, but the situation once again demonstrates how war is taking a toll on the regions and their finances. The economic and social situation in Russia is deteriorating in all regions.
The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora opened Monday in Uzbekistan. According to Associated Press, the site's meeting with 185 nations over the next 2 weeks in Samarkand will consider tightening trade regulations on hundreds of plants and animals that are facing threats in the wild. Our agenda is ambitious: 120 documents, 350 decisions, and over 250 species. From okapi and hyenas to ginseng and Brazil wood, and aquatic species like sea cucumbers, eels, sharks, and rays, said CITES Secretary General Ivan Higuero. CITES is a global treaty that regulates the trade in plants and animals to ensure trade is legal and sustainable and helps prevent species from going extinct. There are proposals at this conference aimed at better regulating the trade in eels and banning or tightening regulations on several birds, reptiles, and other animals that face threats from the pet trade. There also will be several proposals aimed at tightening the trade in sharks and rays, which have long been threatened by overfishing, and even debates over relaxing trade in several species, including saiga antelope. A proposal from Kazakhstan would open the trade, but other countries fear this would lead to an increase in poaching. A similar debate is expected around elephants, with some countries calling for the reopening in the ivory trade, which critics argue would fuel poaching.
COP20, held in the historic city of Samarkand. His Excellency, Mr. Aziz Abduhakimov, advisor to the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan on environment.
Our agenda is ambitious. 120 documents, 350 decisions, and over 250 species, from okapi and hyenas to ginseng and Brazil wood, and aquatic species like sea cucumbers, eels, sharks, and rays. The Secretariat, with just 22 staff, supports nearly 3,000 participants here today. Population growth, globalization, shifting markets, these forces are accelerating. And yet, CITES stands strong, science-based, trade-focused, and resolute against illegal trade. COP20 will set the course for the next 50 years. To succeed, we must focus on what matters most for conservation and align our resources to deliver impact.
Measures to address the current challenge. The increased workload not only has repercussions for the work of the committees.
Given the accelerating pace of illegal trade, we propose developing a mechanism for harmonizing sanctions and liability sanction and enforcement enhancement facility. This initiative would help parties update national legislation, increase penalties, and strengthen preventive and enforcement measures against violations.
First time the United States takes the floor, we express our immense appreciation for the government of Uzbekistan for your gracious
Invite comments from non-party states and intergovernmental organizations.
Consider the effective prioritization which would benefit from Kharkiv.
Don't oppose to your suggestion. On the contrary, we support it. It's just